Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So it has been a little while. If you guys are new to my channel and just discovering this video, looking for labor and delivery videos, welcome and congratulations. Just a little backstory. My name is Jess, I'm 25 and I'm a mum to 2 boys, including this little one here. I do have a 18-month-old, no, he is 20 months now, sorry, 20-month-old. And I will leave his labor and delivery story link down below if you guys are interested in seeing that one as well, because both my boys, well, are very different stories and very different scenarios. So I thought that I would share Isaac's labor and delivery. And of course, as soon as I start filming, he wakes up. I thought I'd film Isaac's labor and delivery story too, because like I said, it's a very different scenario, and while I had very positive experiences with both my children's birth stories, they both were very different. So if you guys are new to my channel, please don't forget to click the subscribe button, because I do share a lot about my life as a mum, and especially now that I'm a mum of two under two, it's busy. So let's jump into the labor and delivery story. So let's go back to when I was 37 weeks and 3 days. I'd been having reduced movement for the week preceding that day, and that day I had absent movements. So I had 6 if not more hours of no movement whatsoever, and so I called my midwife and she recommended that I go into the hospital for monitoring, because they obviously don't like when you have that long of no movement for baby at all, especially that far along. So I did. So I went to the hospital as recommended by my midwife, and this was the 12th of August. So Isaac was born the 13th, if that gives you guys a little bit of a heads up on what's coming. So I got my notes here, so otherwise I'll forget. So I went in for the monitoring, and they were just not happy with my monitoring. They were not happy with the trace. Both my heart rate and his heart rate were sort of all over the shop. They couldn't get any sort of rhyme or reason to it, and mine was really high for no apparent reason, nothing that I could find. So I was monitored for probably 4 or 5 hours before our doctor came in and recommended that we be induced. She said I'm past 37 weeks, they prefer 38 or 39 weeks, but you know, they'd rather not take the risk, and so they thought that we'll start the induction process tonight. So of course I wasn't expecting that, but I did say yes, because obviously I wanted baby to be as safe as possible. And so I called my husband and he came in. So my 1-year-old was at home, and my husband called his mum to come over and watch or stay the night at our place, because my 1-year-old was already in bed. This was about 7 o'clock at night at this point. So he came into the hospital, during which a midwife came in to check to see if I was doing any dilations or anything, like if I was dilated or, you know, anything like that. And I was 1 centimeter dilated, and I was having strong Braxton Hicks. And so basically they said if I can get to a 2 centimeters on my own, I don't need the Cervidil. If I couldn't, then they need to put the Cervidil in. So they said that this was probably when I was in sort of pre to early labor. I wouldn't have even noticed this. They were just strong Braxton Hicks. They weren't painful by any means. I wouldn't even consider them contractions, but they were clearly doing something. And so they left me for a little while, a couple hours, because they weren't happy with the trace and they wanted to get a bit of a baseline before they put it on, because if they hadn't and then baby had a reaction to the Cervidil, they wouldn't know. So they decided that they would leave me for a few hours and then come back and check me. So quite a few hours later they came back in. So probably like, they probably checked me about 9 p.m. And they probably came back in at about 2 a.m. maybe. And I'd just been lots of walking. I was still not having actual contractions. There was no pain. It was just really strong Braxton Hicks, and they were very regular. And so they came back in, and I was dilated to a 2. So they decided that I didn't need the Cervidil, which is the gel that they put in your cervix for ripening to help you dilate. They decided that they would just automatically break my waters and then start the oxytocin drip. So I had to wait to go to labor and delivery for that. And so when my midwife was ready to come and get me and take me downstairs, they did. So this was about 4 in the morning maybe. They came and got me and took me downstairs, maybe 4:30. And so we went downstairs with my caseload midwife, who was the relieving caseload midwife because my midwife was actually off on that particular day. And so she took me downstairs and they broke my waters. Now, I've been asked what this feels like. It's really strange. It doesn't hurt. It's just really unusual. They just get this big stick and they pop the sac basically. And it just feels like a really warm gush that just continues. It's not painful. The contraction that you have after that is painful, but that wasn't the case in this because I wasn't having contractions. If you want to know about that, go to my labor and delivery story with my son, Lachlan. But anyway, so they broke my waters, and I asked if before we put the drip on, if I could get a chance to sort of try and get things going on my own, because if you had seen my video with Lachlan, my oldest son, once they broke my waters, things happened really quickly and I progressed really quickly. And so they probably broke my waters at about 5:30 in the morning, just giving you guys a bit of an update of what kind of time they got there. And they tried to attach a probe to baby's head, but I wasn't dilated enough that they could really reach him properly. And so they came back to that later, and they did that a little bit later, but we'll come back to that. So I get up and I start trying to walk around, sway, all that sort of stuff to get things going. And in the process of this, I started getting really dizzy. And my heart rate went really, really high on the monitor, and I had to get laid down. And they're not sure what happened. Maybe just getting up and walking around after the water's been broken, they're not sure. Because after that it subsided and I didn't have it again. Fast forward, they come in, it's probably about 7:30. Probably about 7:30, so it's been about 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half since they broke my waters. And they said, look, we really do have to start the drip. We want to get things moving. And so I opted and said, all right, well, if I'm not in labor at the moment, I didn't consider myself labor, can I get the epidural before I get the oxytocin? Because I know that once something started, it was going to progress quickly. And if I got that option, I was going to take it. And so I was really lucky that within like half an hour, the anaesthetist walked in the room. Now, this is where it gets a bit funny. So the anaesthetist walked in the room, and it was probably 8 or 8:30. I wasn't really paying a ton of attention to the time, but it had not been long. And I started getting really strong contractions, like really strong contractions. So I was having to breathe through them, and the anaesthetist, between the anaesthetist coming in and me asking for the epidural, they came in and they attached the probe to baby's head, by the way. That was in the middle there. So then fast forward, the anaesthetist comes in and I'm having these contractions. And so we're having to stop and take breaks throughout the epidural process. If you guys want a whole video on what the epidural feels like and that sort of thing, please let me know. However, I can only give you a failed epidural story. Spoiler alert. But I can answer some questions about that if you guys are interested. So the anaesthetist goes through, he was absolutely lovely. He put the epidural in, and by now my contractions are getting really painful. They're getting really intense. And so by the time he was done, it was like 9:30 in the morning. And so around the 9 o'clock mark, I think was when the contractions started, like getting really, like I started getting contractions, and they were very intense. And so he was probably finished 9:30, 9:45. And I was expecting this epidural to start working, and so I was pressing the button every 15 minutes and I was getting nothing, no pain relief whatsoever. In fact, my contractions were getting worse and worse and worse and more painful. And so, which is super fun. And then, so this continues and my pain relief's not working. And so they call the anaesthetist to come back in, and he gives me a bolus dose, and which is basically he pushes through more drugs, more pain relief, to see if he can like give me some pain relief, and I was getting nothing. Couldn't feel a thing, like none of that pain relief was going into me that I knew of. It wasn't doing anything. And so between this time, my caseload midwife went home, and I got a different caseload midwife who I actually knew, so it was really lovely to actually see her, and she delivered Isaac. So she came on, and when the caseload midwife in the morning left, she said, I predict that you'll have a baby by lunchtime. So she left at 9 o'clock because that was when my contractions started getting pretty intense, / I started getting contractions. Like, my body just goes from 0 to 100. We don't get light contractions. No. And that was a prediction, and so I was like, that's not gonna happen. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. By lunchtime, it's 3 or 4 hours away. Continuing on, so we progressed. So I was doing my breathing. I was getting no pain relief, but I was stuck on the bed because I had the epidural in. And so I was just moving my hips, my legs, everything. I was just moving as much as possible. I was squirming. I did not want to stay still throughout this process. And so I'm a fidgeter. It just doesn't work for me. And then come, what time would it have been? 12. Come lunchtime. So it's been about 3 hours now of really intense contractions that I wasn't allowed to get up and walk through. So I was swaying in the bed through these contractions. So come 12 o'clock, and I told and my midwife had called the anaesthetist to come and try again with the epidural, to come and move it to see if they could try and get some sort of pain relief. And he walks in the door, and at the same time I said that I was feeling pressure. And now when I say pressure, I don't mean pressure like in, you know, to push, I guess. Like, no, I don't mean pressure in like the, you know, the perineal region. I meant in my hips, which is funny because that's what I got when I was giving birth to Lachlan. I got pressure in my hips, and so that was a very familiar feeling to me. And so I told my midwife, I'm having pressure in my hips, and she goes, all right, well, let's check you, because I hadn't been checked since like 7:30 that morning, so I didn't know where I was at. And at 7:30 in the morning, I was like 2.5 or 3. I think I was about 3 centimeters. So she checks me and she goes, you're only at a 5. You're at a 5 centimeters. You know, that's great, but you know, we're not ready to have this baby. And I told her, I said, no, my body is pushing. And she's like, what? And I was like, it's pushing, like my body is doing it on its own. I'm not doing anything. It's doing it. And she goes, all right, let's work through this. If your body's pushing, then you push too. Breathe and push. And that's when it got really busy, because we started pushing at lunch at 12 o'clock. And he was coming. And so at this point we had quite a few people coming into the room. So we had the anaesthetist would pop in and out of the room, because he was coming in to check on me because I was getting no pain relief, obviously. And then at the same time, I also had the head midwife come in and ask if I could have 2 medical students in the room, because there was no one else giving birth that morning. And I said, yep, that's fine. Well, they were on the ward and they need to see a certain amount of birth, so I said that was fine. And they were lovely. Well, basically I gave them a thumbs up because I was pushing, and there was no way I had words to use that weren't kind words at those points to talk to somebody. So they came in, and then when you deliver a baby, you need a second midwife in the room to catch the baby, is what they call it. So then my midwife called for another midwife to come in to catch the baby. And she had a midwifery student with her. Alright, so we're talking quite a few people in the room already. And then Isaac's heart rate started to decelerate a little bit. And so they decided that they would have a doctor in the room as well. They called the doctor to come in as well. That doctor also had a medical student with her. So with all the people that were in the room, like I couldn't even count. I said at least 10 other people in the room other than me and my husband and my midwife. And we pushed, and so all of those people were in the room when Isaac was born. Now, something that I found out this pregnancy and this labor and delivery that I didn't know last time, was that I have a very narrow pelvic arch, which is why it took me so long to push both my boys out. They would get stuck on the arch. And so we found that I moved onto my hands and knees and I tried to push in that position, and it just made my feet go purple because of the positioning, and it just wasn't working. So I ended up on my side. And so one of the medical students was holding one of my legs, my other one was on the bed obviously, and we pushed and he came out basically. And I remember during pushing I was saying, I'm like, just get him out, like just get him out, can someone take him out, like this is intense, like just get him out. And they're like, no, you know, we're not gonna help you get him out, you can do it, you can get him out. You know, I just wanted him to come out. Like it felt like forever of pushing. It was only an hour, but it felt like forever. And I just remember saying, I was like, get him out, and they're like, no, just, you can do it, you can get him out. And I did. And that is so incredible to me that I managed to get both him and Lachlan out without any assistance needed. So Isaac was born at 1:07 p.m. On the 13th of August. So the midwife who said that I was going to have a baby by lunchtime was not wrong. He was born at 3.3 kilos, and which is 200 grams more than Lachlan. And he was born at 49 centimeters long, which I think is 19 inches. So he was not massive, but he was not tiny either. He did end up in tiny baby clothes for a little while because they lose weight. It's just, that's what babies do. But he was born and they put him on my chest straight away for skin to skin. And I had to readjust myself on the bed. Obviously I had to like lay on my back and move to the center because I was on the side of the bed and they were terrified I was going to fall. So I readjusted and I laid him on my chest, and like then we birthed the placenta and they had to cut the cord, and they were saying that that was one of the thickest cords they'd ever seen, which apparently is a good thing. It means that it was really, really healthy and really good for baby, which is amazing. And we breastfed straight away for probably an hour or more. He wanted to feed straight away, whereas Lachlan was very sleepy when he was born. He didn't want to feed straight away. Isaac wanted to feed straight away, and he did. He latched on amazingly. And then after that I gave him to the midwife, who gave him a clean, and she weighed him, and that's when we found out how big he was. And then he went to my husband for some time for me to have a shower. So I then you know, I had a really nice shower, brushed my hair, brushed my teeth, washed my hair, washed my body. Like really, really enjoyed my shower. The only person I had visit in the hospital that day was my mum, and that was because you really couldn't keep her away. We didn't have any other visitors. The next day we had my mother-in-law come in with Lachlan. Russ went home that night, and he stayed at my mother-in-law's house with Lachlan. And he came in by himself in the morning, and my mother-in-law brought Lachlan a little bit later, so that we could have, well, Russ brought Lachlan in the morning, and my mother-in-law took him home later so that we could bring Isaac home. And yeah, I mean, I had a very loud roommate in the ward, which was not super pleasant, and she was up all night just talking on the phone really loudly. And she had like 5 different kids. Like she had 5 kids as well, and so that was very noisy, so that was not super pleasant. But otherwise we went home the next day on the 14th of August. I was desperate to go home. They offered me to stay, and I was like, no, please let me go home. But yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. I'm sorry this video was so long, but yeah, I didn't want to leave anything out. So that was my labor and delivery story with this little guy. He is now 8 weeks old, so I'm going to be doing his 2-month update straight after this video. But yeah, I'll insert some pictures of him as like a newborn, like up until this point now, because if you guys haven't really seen him except in my Meet My Baby video. So I will insert some pictures now for you guys to see him over the past couple weeks. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Both of my births were really, really wonderful experiences. Obviously they're painful, like that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that overall the experience was really positive, and I'm so grateful that I had such good experiences. As for like stitches and stuff, I did get stitches. I did get second degree tearing, the same as Lachlan, and I tore in the same spots as Lachlan. They said it would probably just tore the scar tissue from Lachlan's tearing, so that's where I'm at with that. And postpartum bleeding and all that sort of stuff. I'll talk about that in Isaac's 2-month update. But yeah, that's pretty much that. I will be doing, you know, if you guys want to know what I took to the hospital and stuff, I will leave those videos linked down below, and I will be doing a follow-up on what I used in my hospital bag. But being a second-time mum, I use most things, so I knew what to take this time and I used that. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, if you guys are new to my channel, please don't forget to click the subscribe button. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in those videos. Bye.